day everyone, and welcome to part 2 of my 3-part series about the importance of play. In this video we're going to be talking about the science of play. What does it do to our brains, our bodies and our whole self when we play? One of the hypotheses that they made was that play was something that children did when their basic needs for survival were met. So food, water and shelter. And once those needs were met, children would use play as a way to exert their energy. Eventually, people started to research play and why they think children would play. And they came up with something far more important than just exerting unused energy. Now, play is something that's been observed across species. Something that researchers do very often is to see correlations between species. And play is something that has been observed across different species, like vertebrates, like dogs and cats, and invertebrates, like octopi. Now, when observing this, it gives us more of an understanding that play is something that occurs naturally. And is something that is intentional to being a part of our world. Now let's give an example of something that has been observed in a different species. Something like a lion. Now a lion doesn't need to sit in front of their cub and tell them a long lecture about how we pounce and after we pounce, these 3 steps, and you are going to practice this these many times in order to perfect this pounce technique. That is not something that happens in the natural world, as it is not necessary. A lion cub may observe what has been done by their older peers. There's this natural drive to play. When they see a butterfly sitting on a rock, they want to sneak up and catch it. And they try. And then they miss. And then they try again in different ways. Now, they're not doing this with the observation from all their elders. They are doing it as a version of play. When they tackle their siblings and they play bite. These are not things just done to exert energy. It's done as a version of practice for when they're older and need to be the hunters that they eventually become. And that's the same with children. When a child is born, you don't sit in front of them and tell them how they need to play. These are the different things you need to practice to eventually be able to open a jar or to tie your shoelaces or to make friends. It's something that is learned over time through applying past experiences, investigating and exploring. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't a space for adults to integrate, to scaffold or to take part in the child's learning. The theorist Lev Vygotsky theorized about a level at which children can learn independently until they need adult intervention and help to get to the next phase. Now this is called the zone of proximal development, or ZPD. Now children can work and play to get to a certain level, and then once they reach that level, they will then need the intervention and the guidance from an adult. But now most of the studies on play have been done on rats. Now, humans are not rats, so you can't exactly copy-paste the findings exactly to humans, but you can get a better understanding on why play is so important and also the changes that might occur in humans during play. So some of the findings that have been observed is that play has an everlasting effect on the changes of the brain. This specifically in thinking and processing social interaction. So play stimulates the BDNF in the RNA in several areas of the brain, such as the amygdala and hippocampus. The BDNF is the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and this is important for long-term memory and social learning. So during the study, some of the other findings were these rats who were deprived of play had a significant drop in the ability to problem solve, and their prefrontal cortex was far more immature. Rats that were given many more opportunities of play, which were access to a range of play and toy materials, had a bigger sized brain and bigger cerebral cortices, and of course were better at problem solving skills. Now, as most of us know, having a physically bigger brain does not necessarily mean that you are more intelligent. So this is just an example of how it can't always copy paste the findings from one species to another. Now, another way that play improves the brain is it improves the plasticity of the brain, and this is by activating the norepinephrine that facilitates learning in the synapses. So play leads to growth and development in the brain in epigenetic ways, in a molecular level. It also affects it on a cellular level, which is the neural connectivity, and in behavioral level, like social emotional interactions and executive function. So play helps children with many things. It helps with dealing with stress. It helps process life learning and life experiences, and helps them process life changes and maybe some stressful experiences. Now, we need to remember children in the early childhood space have only been alive for years that you can count on one hand, maybe even less. Therefore, their experiences are very minimal. So providing children with ample amounts of play and a range of intentional and appropriate play, this really encourages them to learn and process their life experiences in an intentional way. Play develops language skills, speech skills, mathematical and numeracy skills. It develops their language through social interactions, and very often you'll see this when a child is playing through their dramatic play, or just naming objects that they see around them, providing them with a wide range of experiences. Play improves children's physical development, and this is including the gross motor and fine motor skills, so that's the big muscles and the small muscles. And another way that play is also very important in our very social society is developing social skills. Unfortunately, as we all have experienced lockdown during our COVID times, for children who have only been alive for a number that you can count on one hand, it's important for us to consider what they've missed out in 2 to 3 of those social years. Little do people know that socialization and social skills is something that is learned. It is learned by practice, and it is learned by example. And that is something that we've been quite deprived of in the last couple of years. And something that we really need to focus on now coming out of COVID and now coming out of lockdown. Play also gives children an understanding of the world around them, and also gives them a sense of agency. So making up their own mind, not just living life through the eyes and the decisions of their primary caregivers. And this is an important step for their development, even though a lot of caregivers and a lot of parents really struggle to let go of that out of love. Thank you so much for joining me today on part 2 of my 3-part series on the importance of play and the science of play. Join me next time where I explain the different areas and different ways that children may be seeing play, and in what ways do children grow and develop through these means of learning. So what are children learning in these different areas of play, and what you may see and experience when observing, and how you can best provide opportunities for children to learn in these areas. Thank you so much once again, and remember, be intentional about what you are doing in education and build the foundation first. Thank you so much, and see you in my next one.